Let's quickly go over the hardware of a printer because it's just really helpful contextual knowledge to have. First we have our spool of filament. Located securely somewhere, it should be allowed to rotate freely. The filament is fed into the printhead assembly. Inside the printhead is a stepper motor which grips the filament and feeds it into the hot end. In the hot end is this heating element which melts the plastic, and also a nozzle which the molten plastic is then extruded through. The plastic is squeezed out of the nozzle and layered straight onto the print bed, which is what our part is going to be built upon. A series of stepper motors, belts and pulleys then move the printhead relative to the bed in the X, Y and Z axes. We also got a main board to control all of our hardware, as well as a display and a control knob to interact with the printer. And finally, some sort of rigid frame to mount it all together. We have a whole family of Prusa branded printers, and these kind of lie in the upper end of the consumer market. And with their higher price tag comes some really handy features. So let's go over some of them and see how they help us in the printing process. A heated bed. This is now a pretty standard feature on most printers nowadays, as it helps keep the whole print a nice and consistent temperature. Now let's say this printer didn't have a heated bed. Towards the top here where the plastic's been freshly laid, it'll be nice and warm. But here on the bottom, it'll be relatively cold. And this means that there's going to be thermal forces acting within the part to try and warp it and rip it off the print bed. Auto bed leveling. This is a huge quality of life feature, as the print bed here needs to be nice and square with the print head axes. On some cheaper printers, you'll need to manually dial this in by hand down to a fraction of a millimeter, and it is not a fun process. But these Prusas here have a sensor in them that automatically does this at the start of every single print. Reliability, speed, and accuracy. The higher price tag equals higher quality components. This means that these Prusas are just reliable workhorses with little downtime and faults. Additionally, while this Ender 3 here can get about the same level and quality of print as our Prusa here, the lower quality components on this thing means it can only achieve this at about half the speed that our Prusa can. A bigger build volume. Pretty straightforward. How big of a build volume can your printer actually print within? And this is going to be bound by the build plate area and the Z-axis height. Final one, multi-material printing. Some printers have the ability to pick and choose filaments on the fly. That means you can print parts as one solid piece, but with different colors or materials. This is instead of just one color like nearly every other printer does. And that is the anatomy of our printer. So let's go and learn how to use them.